Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Collecting Profit with myself, Michael Huddle Card, and we got Anthony Picksburgh and our special guest, Beau from 1 Million Cubs. So before we get going here, again, thank you for everyone for showing up, for checking us out. We appreciate it. Looking forward to this. As soon as we started having the show, I told Anthony, I was like, I gotta see if I can figure out how to get, Beau to come on, a full-time reseller who made that move from part-time to full-time. And, you know, uh, it's a direction that Anthony and I are kind of looking to go in also as we, progress through this. So we're really looking to just what it's been like, what the process was going from, how you figured to get to where you are now and all that kind of stuff. But before we get into doing that, Anthony, how you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. Appreciate you guys having me again as per usual. Guys, make sure you smash that thumbs up for Michael if you haven't already. But again, wonderful week. Just got back to Pittsburgh. Been down south. Got to actually hang out with Michael this weekend in Atlanta. We hit the Culture Collision show, so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as the show goes on. But yeah, really was awesome to be able to hang out with you in person at a show again. We haven't done that probably since like last year's national.
Last year's national. Yep.
Yeah. So it was good to be able to hang out in person again. But yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk to Beau today and pick his brain and learn a little bit more about what he does.
Yeah. And Beau, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be on with you guys.
Yep. So I guess let's just jump right in first with the 1 million Cubs. How did you come to that part? We'll get into the reselling thing, but I just got to know 1 million Cubs. What was and where are you? Like how many? Like why and what number are we at?
I'm crazy. Bottom line. Well, you see behind me all these boxes I had when I created the idea of the 1 million Cubs project. I had about 1 million cards total. And a lot of them are those 80s and 90s, the stuff you can't get rid of and sell. Although when we start talking about reselling, spoiler alert, some of that stuff does actually sell. But at the time I didn't know that. And I'm like, well, maybe I can trade my Braves and Yankees and Mets cards and get somebody's unwanted Cubs cards. And we just kind of swap junk wax cards back and forth. And I had done a lot of team trades through the years, and that was kind of the genesis. Since I had 1 million total cards, let's get rid of them and acquire 1 million Cubs cards. And it really took off. Normally, I'm pretty ADD when it comes to collecting, and I see a squirrel and I go chasing squirrels in through my entire collecting life. And this, to my wife's chagrin, is the one thing that stuck. She's like a Marie Kondo, follower, and loves to like purge, and I love to hoard. And this was the collection that stuck. Just hoarding Cubs baseball cards, and over the last 5 years of doing this, my 1 million total cards is at about 3 million total cards down here in this basement. And my Cubs count is a little over 870,000 Cubs cards. And somebody's going to ask, yes, duplicates do count.
Right. Yeah. I would think you would. Wow. That's impressive, man. That is definitely impressive. Impressive.
You have duplicates of the '86 Flair Michael Jordan. It definitely counts.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Too bad I didn't start a 1 million Bulls collection in 1987, 88.
That would have been awesome.
When those were a little more affordable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So are you? So you have your Cubs obviously is baseball, but when you are looking at buying and selling collections, all that kind of stuff, are you any sport, or are you just basically focusing on, baseball?
I try to focus on baseball, but I do like, especially in my eBay store, I like to have a little diversity with football and basketball. I don't. I've never been into hockey, and I've never been into soccer, so I stay away from those two sports. As we were talking off air, I do love wrestling. So whenever I find wrestling cards, I just for the sheer joy of having them and collecting them, I'll dabble in wrestling cards. But I would say my primary focus is definitely baseball, but then I dabble with football and basketball just to throw a little something else in my eBay store to attract other customers that may cross over.
Yeah, Anthony is in big search for the Britt Baker autograph.
Oh yeah, nice.
The Pittsburgh girl.
Pittsburgh native, yeah, Pittsburgh
Yep.
native.
Yep, she comes to a lot of the Comic-Cons around here, so I have a bunch of her cards I've been collecting from the AEW sets. I think I'm going to try to get some in-person autographs next time she is local here signing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Are they in Cleveland tonight, AEW?
I want to say so.
Because I was watching it before we went on, and they were in the they did a promo. It was the Young Bucks did a promo in the Wright State volleyball gym.
Yep, it looks like might have been a filmed one from the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah. Cleveland.
Excuse me. Yeah, so how'd you get into the hobby? When did your hobby turn from collecting and then adding the reselling, the selling part of it? How does that work for you?
That really, it's always been a part of me. The reselling has always been a part of me. I mean, going back to, and I see a lot on social media, people like, I wish it was like the old days when nobody cared about the values of cards. Well, I was a child of the 80s and early 90s. And when I opened a pack of 89 Donruss and 90 Tops, the first thing I did was I grabbed my Beckett magazine to see how much my cards were worth. Like, it was all monetary to me. And I think it was definitely monetary to, back then guys, our age back in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's always been festering inside of me since the late 80s. I was on eBay. My first eBay account was, I think, opened in January of 99 or June 99. I actually found like the member since whatever on my initial eBay. And I was actually using Web TV. My first eBay username was on Web TV. And that was back in like 98, 99 when I started buying and selling online all the way back in the late 90s. So it's just always kind of been a little side hustle for me. And then during COVID, it really picked up steam. eBay offered up more free listings for sellers. So that, look behind me, I had plenty of inventory and I had plenty of time. I was working from home and we were all stuck inside for a while. So I used that time to just start listing cards and everything was selling. And so that would have been like 2020. And then I just kind of, as I kept going, it was almost like maybe I can make this thing. And I kind of treated it, after a few months, I kind of treated it like it was my full-time income. And so I treated, I tried to treat it like a business kind of early on in those days of the COVID boom, just to see if I could make it work.
That's cool. I mean, so now, did you, when you first start, or at what point did you, obviously during COVID, you're saying, hey, I can get this to work. I think I can go ahead and do this and everything. I'm sure you had to get buy off from the missus.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, I know you use software now. At that point, were you using the software and the scanning and all the other kind of stuff? So it was just all phone and PC?
Yeah. Yeah. And now looking back, it's kind of like when you think back in those early, like how did we, how did we live life without phones in our hands and the internet? And, we just did. Like that's, I sold cards from my iPhone, and that's how it's like, oh, I can do this. By the time I went full time, I had started utilizing File Exchange, which File Exchange, and I still utilize File Exchange, but I use the Card Dealer Pro software on top of it. But so I was starting to use the File Exchange not software, but the File Exchange with a spreadsheet with an Excel spreadsheet, and then uploading it to eBay. So I had started that process, but day one, somebody on Twitter had reached out. I'd actually talked about the Fujitsu feed scanners on one of my YouTube shows, and somebody from Twitter heard about it and went out, bought one. And once he started using it, he sent me a video, and he's like, dude, this is a game changer. And it was just a few days before I, started my first full day of selling cards full time. And about 30 minutes into my first day, I realized my process is not gonna work. I mean, it can work, but if I want to scale the amount that I want to scale, it can't be done with the current process. And so about an hour into my first day, I went to Amazon and purchased that first Fujitsu feed scanner.
Is that the 7030?
That was the 7030, yeah. And I would recommend that. It's a great starter machine. And the 8170 is quite a bit more expensive, but it's got some perks too. But then I just kind of found efficiencies along the way, and now there's it's not. I didn't do this over. It didn't all come to me overnight. I was writing on envelopes, writing addresses on envelopes until about 2 years ago. And then I was stubborn, and I didn't get a thermal label printer. And that's one of the tools that, now it's like, how did I do this without a thermal label printer?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of just efficiencies that I learned. And a lot of it was through crowdsourcing, was like through my YouTube channel, and like people sharing ideas and just bouncing. That's why I'm so forthcoming with the information, is because like 99% of what I do, I learned from other people. So I just want to pass it on and try to help others, because others have helped me. And, through the course of the last 2 years, there's been a lot of different things that I've employed to make it more efficient and to be able to scale faster.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I was saying, before we went live and everything, Anthony, the file system that I have for the cards and everything, which I was telling you about and everything, I got it from I got it from Beau. He was talking about it on his show one day, and I was like, man, that's a great way to do it. And I had just started listening. I luckily for me, but what happened was I only probably had about 200 or so, maybe 250 cards listed. So I was like, oh, I can jump in here, and I'm going to, just pick a bunch, assign it a custom SKU, but and I was able to do that. So I was able to get ahead of it quick.
Yeah.
Rather than getting deep into it and be like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I? How do I go? How do I move forward?
Exactly.
But like you said, it makes it so much easier. When the processes are in place, it does make it, so much easier. Now, I've been looking at software, and I've been looking at, I don't know if there's a leader of the pack or not, kind of like, there is in grading, with PSA, and everybody says, but, so I know there's Chrono Card, and I know there, is, what is it? Card Dealer Pro.
Card Dealer Pro, yeah.
Yeah. And, I just started looking at Card Dealer Pro, and I'll tell you, to me, and I guess maybe it's just me, simple, and I always say, simple mind, simple thoughts. It just looks simpler than Chrono Card to me.
And that's my same thought process.
Is that what kind of steered you that way?
Yes.
Versus the Chrono Card?
Yeah, and Chrono Card is something that I've been familiar with Chronazio for several years. I I think they've been around since like the Turbo Lister, back when eBay had Turbo Lister,
Wow.
which has been, a decade or so. And so I've had like various accounts just trying to dabble with Chronazio, and it just always seemed clunky. And I tried to give it another whirl here as I wanted to scale up about a year ago. And again, I didn't want to just put my credit card information down and spend a month's subscription fee on a product I didn't know anything about. And then all of a sudden somebody tells me about look into Card Dealer Pro. And I went to their website and it's like, hey, you get a 7-day trial. Hey, perfect. I can test it out without even, spending any money. And then there's a little calendar at the bottom that you can schedule right into a Google Calendar. You can schedule a demo with the guys at Card Dealer Pro. So I did my trial first. And I think it was like a Sunday, and there were a few things that I didn't like about it, or that I had questions about it. And so I ran it a couple times. I sent I scheduled like a demo for like the next day, for like a Monday morning at 9 or 10 a.m. And boom, I was on a Zoom call at 10 a.m. the next morning with Ted Mann from Collects.
Mm-hmm.
And, he answered my questions. There were a couple things that I had suggested that, their team hadn't thought of, which was in place like just maybe a week or two later. And that was being able to create your own title. Like I wanted to add the term baseball card in my title. And at the time you could only like pull certain fields from your spreadsheet into that title field. But they employed like pretty quickly after I suggested it, they were able to get it into where you can add, you can add any text you want into the title field, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a field from the spreadsheet. So it was just, the whole process was super easy. And having the file exchange, knowing how to work spreadsheets and how eBay reads those spreadsheets through file exchange, I mean, that did help. But even with that said, you don't necessarily have to have that knowledge to really get a grasp of how to use Card Dealer Pro.
Yeah, and I liked, the way you showed it. I guess it was about a month ago or so and everything. You did that live from upstairs and everything, and I was actually able to watch that yesterday. And the way you did it of bringing it in and then working the CSV file, beforehand. I mean, it really did make it easy. Like, watching you and saying, hey, things to change. It's a lot easier because, there's the copy and paste and so on and so forth and stuff, and, and everything. So it was definitely very good to see that and actually see a little, more of it. The question I have is, when I was looking at it, when they show the scanners and they show the 3 Fujitsu ones, I'm assuming that's like those are the recommended or best practices one.
Yeah,
if
you can use any scanner.
Didn't have one of those, could they still work Card Dealer Pro?
Absolutely. Yep. In fact, you don't even have to have a scanner if you're taking photos with your phone, and you can send them to your computer with however you're through the cloud or whatever, and just save them to your computer, and then go into your computer and upload them from where you saved them. So, I mean, you don't even have to have a scanner to use Card Dealer Pro, as long as you have images somewhere saved to upload those.
Oh, wow. Do you recommend it like once you get to a certain like level of like listings on eBay, like, and what would that level be in your opinion?
I would, if you're looking for volume, I would definitely recommend it for volume, especially if you're selling. So I'm a low end $1.50, $2, $5, basically the standard envelope type is my, forte, under $20 cards. So I'm a volume seller. So I would, if you're doing any type of volume, and that's subjective, but I would say, like, if you plan on getting to, like, say 10,000 listings plus, 10,000 plus listings, I think a feed scanner, you're going to get a good good bang for your buck. If you're just looking to do a couple thousand, a few thousand, less than 10,000, you can get by on your phone or, just a regular flatbed scanner or something else. But if you're looking to really scale up on volume, I would recommend the one of the feed scanners. And like I said earlier, the 7030, it's an older machine, but I used it for a year. And then I ended up selling it to somebody, a friend of mine, and now he uses it. And so I would definitely recommend that. It's a great starter machine. The only knock I have on the 7030 is you can't adjust the margins on the scan. So sometimes it'll scan those cards really tight and it won't show the edges or corners, 100%. Whereas the 7160 that's there on the screen and the 8170, the software that those machines use allows you to set margins. And so I think mine are set up to like 2 millimeters. So it's got a nice, just a little small border. And you can also change the background color. It's only black or white, but if it's a white border card, I like to have a black background. If it's a black border card, I like to have the white background. So it really makes those edges and corners pop.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Now,
So
does it automatically
adjust
adjust that? Sorry about that, Michael.
I was saying, so you can't, I didn't realize you could not do that with the 7030.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the one knock. I mean, it you can get by on it, but it is but there's also, you can get a 7030, I sold mine, used, and you can buy them used for about $300. The 8170 is a newer machine. So I don't know how many refurbished or used machines are out there, but I think it runs new. It's like $1,000 to $1,200. So it's a significant increase in price. The 7160 you can probably find, since it's a last generation model, you can probably find those. That software that the 7160 uses is the same software the 8170 uses, which allows you to have those margins. So if you're looking for a better price, a much better price, and you want those, and that's important, which, now working with that newer software where I can set the margins, it's definitely much nicer.
So Flippix Book Guy says you can use the margins now, and he says he sets them up in PaperStream. So
okay, well, perfect. So they
PaperStream the scanning app or the scanning software?
Yeah, yep. PaperStream. So maybe there's a new update with PaperStream. So that's awesome. So there you go.
So let me ask you this. When you first started your business, how long did it take you to get to the point where you were using like the Car Dealer Pro and you were using the Fujitsu scanners and those type of things? Like, at what point did you outgrow like the taking a picture of it with your camera or your phone and uploading it to eBay that way?
So I was uploading, and I was using File Exchange probably 6 months before I went full time. I was using just the spreadsheet, uploading it through File Exchange, but I was still taking photos on my camera and then uploading them to a third party hosting site, Image Shack, and then copying those links into the spreadsheet. Like I purchased the feed scanner, the 7030, like my first full day, because that's when I realized I'm doing this full time now, and my phone's not fast enough. And then I didn't start using the AI, the Car Dealer Pro, until probably this past August. So it was almost a year before I started using the AI, and it can really speed up the process if you're using. Today I listed a bunch of early 80s football, and I mean, it took me to list 150 cards. It took me 10-15 minutes. And most of that time was the identification process on the back end for Car Dealer Pro. So like my actual work related to it was scanning the cards and then just confirming everything was correct and then making some subtle changes in uploading. So, I mean, a few minutes to upload start to finish, 150 cards. And then it varies by set. If a set's, a new set, or if it's kind of an oddball set that's not recognized, And this AI software, and this is for basically any AI, whether it's Card Dealer Pro, Chronazio, Center Stage, and your apps that are for looking up values, comps, and stuff. It does not. The AI is just not smart enough yet to recognize parallels, serial numbers. It'll catch some of them, but for the most part, Card Dealer Pro is great for base cards and inserts and stuff like that.
Well, before we get to flipping cards question, the one thing that I like, well, the two things that I like is, number one is that actually Card Dealer Pro is the cloud storage also, that your cards stay there. And I like number two that that had on the right side of the screen when you're looking at it, where you could actually like click on your eBay link and see what the what the listings are and stuff.
Yeah,
you wanted to, which is pretty interesting. But so here's one. I mean, for the people that use scanners, again, I don't know, depending on what levels you use, what about the colors and the so on? Have you noticed that? Did you notice anything from the 7030 to your new scanner?
Not really, actually. The only knock on some of these feed scanners is like Chrome cards, with two reasons. One, it's difficult for them to like get them fed through. It doesn't damage, and I think most Chrome cards now, at least from the packs I've opened, they're already scratched. I mean, the quality control isn't that great.
Right.
So I just assume, and I'm selling $1.50, $2, $5 Chrome cards. So if there's another small blemish, I kind of expect it. But I haven't noticed any like major scratching when I've scanned Chrome cards. But like a refractor, in what other, I think it was the rainbow foil for tops, the base tops cards, the rainbow, it doesn't really, it's a tough scan because, and it's probably the lighting. I'm not very techie smart, but like when you take a photo with your iPhone, it captures, it catches the light shining off and refracting the light. So it shows the rainbow where, if you're scanning it flat, it's not, there's no light that's, refracting. So, but as far as like seeing a difference, I really haven't noticed a difference in quality of scan between the 7030 and then now what I'm using is the 8170. I really haven't noticed much of a change in quality.
So when you're you're getting ready, you grab, do you do anything special as far as, do you just reach over and say, okay, I have this box right here, I reach in, I grab, I put in my scanner, or do you try and group them in some way, shape, or form? Does that matter? Does that would that be a waste of time?
Yeah, I try to streamline as much as possible, which I try to limit any sorting, but I do like variety in my listings, and I feel like it like within my eBay store, if I list 150 81 tops, 82 tops, 83 tops football cards, I feel it doesn't generate as much interest as even like 88 tops baseball, but if it's 88 tops baseball, 89 tops, 89 Donruss, 95, and just a variety, I feel that there's a lot more, traffic to those listings. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, these 10 cards sold. And it could be Brian Taylor, Kevin Moss, and Todd Marinovich, just random cards selling.
Is there any rhyme or reason to the way you source with like the fact that most of your cards you said are going to be like that, like $150 to like $5 card? Is there any rhyme or reason, like time of year, season, player, like any of those type of things? Or is it just like, hey, I'm working through this box today, this is what's in it?
For the most part, it's just whatever's nearest. It's like, like tonight Normally, right now I wouldn't be focused on listing football cards because we're down to 2 teams in the Super Bowls a couple weeks away. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking to restock my eBay store with football because right now this is like boom, primetime baseball. Pitchers and catchers report in a couple weeks. Spring training is going to be underway, but I picked up another pallet of cards from Goodwill today, and I'm going through and there's some football and there's Topps Heritage Football, and Topps Heritage Football is a really popular set. Yeah, they're only $1.50 cards, but boom, I can sell them like hotcakes. So those will probably be popping in my eBay store this week because I know it's hopefully it'll be easy and Card Dealer Pro recognizes them all and it'll be an easy upload. But so sometimes there's not really any rhyme or reason. It's just whatever if I source something and it comes in and I see, okay, I can list this even though it's kind of off season, but I know it's going to generate some interest. I'll list it.
We'll come back to the whole Goodwill palette thing. So here's the thing: if you're not sorting, how is Card Dealer Pro as far as the the misreads or the no reads? What are you seeing? I'm assuming. I mean, I would believe that older cards might be a little more. You might have a less percentage of misreads than if you're dealing with some newer stuff coming out.
Yep. And the more I use it, the more I have a grasp of like what Card Dealer Pro is going to recognize. So if there's a pile of, say, I don't know, Panini Chronicles, say it has a tough time reading Panini Chronicles, I'm going to just kind of put those maybe in a quarter box for a card show or just not waste my time putting on, because I want to spend as least amount of time as possible. So I want to get the cards. I want to put good stuff in my store, but at the same time, I don't want to spend too much time listing $1.50 cards. So there's kind of this like balance going on.
Right.
So when I don't sort, I kind of have an idea. I mean, it's not that I'm not sorting, but I'll grab a pile and sometimes a couple cards that I know Card Dealer Pro won't recognize, but I'm going to throw them. Topps Archives Baseball is a set that the AI just doesn't know, which I can kind of understand because it's using old designs, so it's probably confusing the technology. So that's something that it's like, okay, if I have a stack of them, I'm not going to put them in there because I'm going to have to type these all out because the AI is not going to recognize. So I do, when I'm going through stuff, I do try to cherry pick, what I know is going to be recognized and what's not going to be recognized.
What percentage of the listing gets done by like a Card Dealer Pro? Like,
I mean, you can automate it to have basically 100%. The only thing, so what I do is, so I'll scan everything in. The only thing I type in is the price, which I usually just type in $1.50 and copy and paste it. But say there's a $2.50 or a $5, $10 that sneaks in there. And then I'll just go $1.50 is default. Probably 95% of what I upload is going to be that price. So it's just a copy and paste. And then my SKU, my custom label for eBay, I'm working on tab box 1, tab A. I'm just going to go box 1, tab A, copy and paste down the whole spreadsheet. And my description's default. So it uses a default description that I've already typed out. Card Dealer Pro lets you utilize, so I have templates for football, baseball, basketball. So my baseball template has baseball card already in the title. So the title has everything. If it recognizes the card accurately, my entire title doesn't need to be changed. Sometimes if it's Bowman, if it's a first Bowman Chrome, then I'm going to have to tweak the title a little bit just because it's not going to put exactly what I want in the title. But that's pretty much it. It'll populate team. It'll populate the number, the grade. It's not graded. I mean, it populates everything. So there's just a couple fields that I need to fill out manually, and it's basically a copy paste job.
Yeah, Anthony Beau did a good one. It's probably about either 4 or 5 weeks ago. It was a live that he did where he actually showed the process and everything, and he brought up the spreadsheet and stuff. And it was, I
Nice.
tell you, it was like I said earlier, simple mind, simple thoughts. When I saw you doing that type of stuff, I was like, wow, the last thing I want to do is pay for software, pay for a scanner, and then have to do a whole bunch of work.
Exactly.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so if there's 3 or 4 columns, and to your point, if you're having all those cards in that same price range, I mean, and so your custom SKU and your prices, then you're just checking to see maybe what the AI might have missed in your title.
Yeah.
So man, that's
Does the AI research pricing as well?
It does, but it's not very accurate. So I don't, that is an option, and it's, I don't like it. So I don't use it, but it's there. It's available. Proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rippin. I mean, yeah. The sorting does not become a factor once you get more knowledge. I mean, it's going to be probably like anything. In the beginning, you're going to not know. And then the more you do, you realize, like you said, hey, wow, every time I put Topps Heritage in, it doesn't work.
Right.
Let me not put Topps Heritage in. Let me move them to the side, and so on, and so on and so forth. From that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, it's made me think, I'm gonna be honest, and Anthony and I, we were talking about it over the weekend when he was here, and we've talked about it a little bit more. Seeing it more and more has made me want to speed up that process of going that way. Because like you said, I mean, I listed some cards today, but I probably only did about 15 or 20 of them, which was okay, but
yeah,
at that same amount of time, I would have done it at a minimum double, if not more. It's not like I don't have the cards to do. It's a difference. Like if you don't have, from that, if it's the difference if you don't have the cards to do it, but when you have the cards to do it, it kind of makes sense. And I guess like you said, if you take those tools that you have and you use them the right way, they pay for themselves pretty quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but so what is it as someone who's a full-time sports cards reseller? I know eBay is your thing. How does your day go? I know, everybody doesn't know. If you don't know, Beau does a live show every morning. Here it's 8. Well, what do you do? 7 o'clock your time?
Yeah, 7 Central. Yep.
7 Central, 8 Eastern. It's great. So I try and catch it as much as I can. I'm usually, in the gym at that time, so it makes it a little hard. And then if I'm on the bike and stuff, I can't spell to begin with, and then to spell to try and with huffing and puffing real hard and trying to concentrate and type, it really doesn't work out that well. But Hobby Evolution, right?
Yes. Yep.
Hobby Evolution every morning. So I mean, I know that's a major part of your day in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So after that, you get into your business.
Yeah. Yep.
So what does that day look like? So, if people want to know what it's going to take to get to that point.
It's my day varies, which is kind of what I like. My previous job, I worked in an office, and I woke up, took a shower, ate breakfast, went to work. 9 o'clock, I went and got my second cup of coffee. 10 o'clock, I went to the bathroom. 11 o'clock, it's whatever, noon, lunch. It's like cookie cutter, day in, day out. And I worked in the transportation industry, which is like, I mean, it's crazy. So at least that part, but I was in an office day in, day out. And it's just, that's not my thing. So I kind of thrive in chaos. I mean, look behind me. It's just chaos back here. And so that's just kind of how I like my schedule. It's just kind of chaotic at times, but I did want, one of the most important things for me when I dropped the office job and worked from home was I need a routine. And I kind of had some practice because during COVID, I worked from home for about 16 months, which I kind of didn't want to work from home because I didn't know if I could. I've got a lot of distractions. I mentioned earlier, hey, squirrel. And if I'm surrounded by, if I worked in a basement with baseball cards, how much work am I going to get done? Because I'm going to, what's in this box? I haven't seen this box in a while. So I was concerned, but I actually did really well working from home. And that kind of gave me the courage to really think about, I could actually work from home and not just be a couch potato and actually get stuff accomplished. But I wanted to keep a routine and I didn't want to. I feel less productive if I wear a hoodie and sweatpants, which is usually my uniform on a Sunday. And I just feel like I'm not getting much accomplished. So I still wanted to dress. I mean, it's not like I'm wearing a suit and tie, but still wear a shirt and jeans. And wake up early in the morning. I'm more of an early morning guy than late night. And I had started doing a hobby evolution during COVID because I was working from home and talking to the dog and my wife, and that was it. So I didn't have any water cooler talk. And it's like, well, I had a radio back. I actually worked in radio before I worked an office job. I worked in radio for about 12 years and I did a lot of morning radio. And so I had that background. It's like, well, maybe it's just like, I'll do 30 minutes and just talk about what I ate for dinner last night and whatever's on my mind in baseball cards. And so that's kind of how it started. And it keeps me honest. It gives me something to wake up to, because if I didn't do that, it might get, I can sleep in this morning. I'll sleep in a little bit. And so at least people are expecting me to be on at 7-ish, because sometimes my computer's slow and it's 7:15 before I go live, but I'm awake and I'm dressed. So from there, I just kind of, whether it's shipping heavy day or a listing heavy day, I kind of like to go back and forth. Again, I don't like to, I just can't sit here and ship all day. So I've got to take a break and go upstairs and I'll list for a little while, come back down, ship some more, and just kind of, basically each day is kind of how I kind of map it out ahead of time, but it does vary day by day.
Is there a goal for like daily listing or like weekly listing that you try to adhere to make sure that you're hitting like certain numbers to like justify like certain like expenses or whatnot?
I do. And I really want to do like a net 1,000 per week, which I'm moving about 110 to 115 a day. So that's, I'd have to be at like 18 or just easy round number 2,000. So I should be at like 2,000. So I'm at a net 1,000 plus listings. So that's kind of what I aim for. But, I did a card show this past Saturday. So that put me behind, a whole day of not shipping puts me, basically a day behind. And then when I go pick up a bunch of cards, I'm dealing with that. We're renovating a house. So I, sometimes I'm pulled away with stuff over there. So sometimes life gets in the way, but just try to make it work as best as possible.
How long does it take you to list 2,000 cards? Just out of curiosity, like using the scanner and the AI.
So I can do roughly, I would say on average, I can do 250 to 300 an hour, about 300 an hour. Wow. But also that hour is not like devoted time either. Like my devoted time to that is probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So maybe half or less of that hour is like me actually doing something part of the listing process. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of background where the AI, like say I scan something and I scan 100 cards in. So I'm obviously doing that. I can't step away and, ship cards. So I'm scanning the cards and then I upload them And then once they're uploaded, then Card Dealer Pro is doing its work. And it takes 10 to 15 minutes to do 100 cards where it's identifying and reading those cards. So in that time, I'm either getting my next batch ready, I'll come downstairs and ship a few items, or I'll scan the next batch of 100. So I have that 100. That's when I can really be efficient, is when I'm actually devoted to like the process where when one batch is uploading, I'm scanning another batch, and it's just it's that assembly line approach. And really that 300, that's average. I mean, if I did say 78 tops baseball, I mean, I could probably do 800 in an hour, because there's really no touch for me as far as the AI is going to read everything. For the most part, it's probably going to be 95% accurate on a set like that. And I have all of it's a copy paste job on a couple fields. And then it's just me making sure they don't slip in O-Pee-Chee or something like that, or misidentify a player.
What do you do as far as duplicates? Do you ever like make like one listing with like say 10 of the same card, or do you just do a individual listing for every single card regardless of how many you have of it?
That's a great question. So I kind of, it varies, because say it's just use 78 tops. It's 78 tops. You know, the cuts are a lot different. So there's going to be centering issues on some of those older issues. So I like to do single card. So, you know, box 1 tab A is going to be copy 1 of Rick Russell. And then say I have 6 of them, I'm going to stagger them in different tabs so I don't get them mixed up. Where if I just had 1978 tops, Rick Russell, I could pull one, but it might not be the one that's in the picture. And that's happened in the past where, you know, it may be a little off center than what is in the picture. So if I have them in different tabs, I know that one without question is the one that's in the listing. But if it's a 2021 tops Juan Yepez rookie card, and I've got 25 of them, and I have them, if I have 25 of them right there, I'll just make one listing, quantity 25 on Juan Yepez. So it does kind of vary. Older stuff, I'm going to try to make sure they're separated. Newer stuff, I'll put those quantity listings in.
Cool. So, and again, I know we'd started to go a little bit into sourcing, and I did see that there was a question in the chat. Somebody had a similar question, like when you first started to like now, is there any difference in the way you source your cards, or like I would say the avenues, or have you gotten pickier, or have you gotten, I would say, less picky as you've scaled the business?
I've definitely gotten more picky because I'm getting more cards coming in than I can list, even as fast as I can list them. I'm kind of I kind of have an advantage because I promote a card show locally, and I do a couple other shows. At least one other show a month. So I've become really good friends with a lot of dealers. And so now I've got this, like, it seems like a never ending line of fellow dealers at these card shows that they've got all this bulk, and they're like, hey, Beau's the bulk guy. And so I turned down multiple, I did a card show this past weekend down in Northern Illinois, and I probably had 3 or 4 guys say, hey, I've got a bunch of bulk. And I'm like, oh, I'm backed up right now. So, but keep me in mind, don't lose my number, because I will be interested at some point, just not right now. So, I've had to get a little more picky.
So you tell the guys at the Illinois show that you're backed up, but you buy a Goodwill pallet.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Right. And I just, and this is the second one in the last 2 weeks. So, in fact, when I went to pick it up today, the FedEx driver was 2 weeks ago when I picked one up. He was like, they bring this huge Gaylord, 600 pounds of baseball cards out of Goodwill. And so the FedEx guy, we're talking, and so I pull up same time, same driver, and he goes, I thought that was like a one-time thing. And I'm like, well, it's about a month every month, but this one's a little faster turnaround. So usually it's a month to 6 weeks for those pallets. Quick turnaround this time. The time that I'm not buying, but I can't turn down a pallet of cards at that price.
So, I mean, I've seen them, but when you get those, obviously you have to bring. Well, I mean, I don't know how you bring a pallet of Goodwill home. I'm assuming you right there have to take it out of their Gaylord. So
Yeah.
obviously you need a bunch of it's probably in boxes, and you probably have to have your own boxes also to load up your vehicle.
Yeah, it's a puzzle. It's like putting a puzzle together. And kind of the tricky part is, obviously when you're loading something up, what's at the bottom? The heaviest, bulkiest stuff. So I'm unloading all these small boxes and so I'm unloading the small boxes first, putting them in my car. And guess what's the last? The big bulky items where I don't have room for them. Or they're 100 pounds and I'm leaning over this Gaylord trying to pull 100-pound tub filled with baseball cards out. And, so yeah, it takes a little skill in trying to put things around, but the more practice I get, I'm getting better at efficiently loading my car with baseball cards.
Now you mentioned. Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say, out of a pallet of baseball cards, how many cards do you think you'd find that might be like worth like more than like your standard $5? Because I would imagine it would probably be difficult for Goodwill to piece through all of those cards and like cherry pick like the better stuff for their own eBay accounts or whatever. Do you typically find like stuff that you're like, oh crap, I can't believe that was in a Goodwill pallet?
Yeah. So the very first pallet, Beginner's Luck, there was a Mike Trout rookie card.
Oh, nice.
And it was the first few, like, I don't know if they were in pages or what, but there was 2011 Topps update. And I'm like, ooh. And so this is my first pet. So I don't know what they're putting aside or, what they're. And so I go through all of these 2011 Topps update and there's nothing. So one of the last things I pull out of my car is a stack of like loose 9-pocket pages. And it's a bunch of 87 Topps. So I bring them in the house and it's almost like I just want to throw them away. So I'm going through them. Of course, I pull the Cubs out, the rest. Right in the middle, there's about 5 or 6 pages of 2011 Topps update. And one of them, there's a Mike Trout rookie. Good and bad. It was in the top left corner. Which is bad because it was up against the binder ring. However, on the right side was like bent in half. So the cards that were in the 2 spots next to it were like creased in half. So the Trout was in really good condition with the exception of a blemish from being up against that binder ring. So that's probably been the biggest pull. The second pallet, there was a really rare Marvel promo that sold for like $400. There was a Milwaukee Bucks ticket stub that happened to be Giannis's rookie debut.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and that sold for like $225. But most of the stuff is going to be there was a baggie, a Ziploc baggie of Star Wars, and the goldenrod was in there. The C3PO with the
nice. Yeah.
So and that's $60-$70. So there's a lot of stuff like that. The smaller stuff. Not the Trouts and the rare promos, but there's a lot of like $20 and under, like $5 to $20. There's a lot of that. The pallet today, and I've only brought in a few boxes, but there were a ton of 70 Topps singles, which they're going to be $2 cards. But there was an Ichiro rookie. There was about a dozen Boomer Esiason rookies. Nice. What else was in there? There's some decent stuff that I know will move. So, and it's always a surprise. And sometimes the good stuff, somebody at Goodwill's not going to, they're probably on the lookout for Kobe's, LeBron's, Jordans, and Trouts.
Yep.
and in vintage. So a lot of some of these like oddities that may be worth $100, they have no idea and they're not going to look for. So those can sometimes be, hidden gems.
Is there a price range of the pallets?
So they typically run. So this one was right at $500, which they've been running. They price them by the pound, which is a unique way to buy baseball cards.
Yeah.
So it runs about what I think it's about 90 cents a pound. It's under $1 a pound. So this pallet with after tax was about $520. And it's about 125,000 cards.
That's not bad. Huh? That's enough to keep you busy for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you meant 125,000, or will you like only list like maybe like 70%, or is there like any percentage of cards that doesn't get listed out of that?
Yeah, I will probably only list maybe 25%. I mean, there's going to be, I've already thrown just in what I brought in today, which is a very small percent, was three smaller boxes I'll trash because they were, in like a garbage bag or in a box, just all beat up. So I'll pull the Cubs because I don't care if they're bent. I'll put them in my Cubs. But then the rest, they just go in the recycle bin. So, some get recycled. And then I try to sell the bulk commons. I'll pull some of the stuff that I'll list for $1.50 in my eBay store, and then commons and stars that, it's like, I don't need another 90 Fleer Kirby Puckett in my eBay store. Stuff like that will go in the common box.
Gotcha. So you had mentioned a card show. So you run a card show. How did that come about? What made you decide to add that to the things you do?
That came about during COVID also. We had a local show here. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. We had a show and it was a really small show, and it was on Sundays, and it was about like 8 months a year. It wasn't even monthly, maybe 15, 20 tables. And I knew there was demand for something, bigger, more space. I'm a bargain box guy. I love digging through bargain boxes, and I love pulling up a chair. And at the card show we had previously, there was no space.
Oh, wow.
And so two people couldn't walk, in the aisle. Like, it was basically single file around this small little conference room. So for like 2 or 3 years, I'm like, man, I should start a card show here. Cause I've set up at shows. I kind of know how they run. But I just never, had the ambition to do it. I had a buddy of mine who's local, was local at the time. He's like, have you ever thought about this? And I'm like, yeah, I've thought about it a lot over the last 2-3 years. So he was in real estate and had some commercial real estate contacts that we could maybe rent some commercial properties out to get this going. So I said, I know how card shows run. He didn't have that knowledge, but he had like working contracts with venues. So I'm like, I'll take care of the card stuff. You take care of securing a location. So some of his stuff fell through as far as like the commercial, stuff that we could get on the cheap, but he found the Sheraton Hotel and got a good price on it because getting COVID discounts. And we started running with it. We had, I think, 17 tables at our first show in April of 2021. The venue said, yeah, we could probably fit 50 tables in here. And I'm like, oh my God, we'll never get to 50 tables. Well, we're at 125 with a waiting list.
Wow.
So it's grown quite a bit. We grew out of, we've got an upstairs ballroom that I've got 70 tables in the upstairs ballroom. I've got 15 tables in the mezzanine outside the upstairs ballroom. And then last year opened up a ballroom downstairs, and there's 40 tables in the downstairs room. So it's really taken off.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, that's a monthly show. Next show's February 25th. Just had one 2 weeks ago. Next show is February 25th.
That's really cool. I mean, that's excellent that, that you're able to do that. I mean, it's I try and go to the shows and everything like that as much as I can, but not as much as I want to, right? I mean, but that is what it is. What are you going to do, right? I mean, you
Right.
can only do so much with with the time you have and stuff and everything. But you when you started, I mean, and you were saying you were trying to look for just like an empty real estate warehouse and something along those lines, and you had to go to a hotel. Was the Is the hotel? Do you think the hotel would ultimately is like a better scenario than if you would have gotten just like a plain warehouse? Like, do you think maybe is there anything like from a draw perspective? Do you think people would not want to go, or we're just all card nuts, so it really doesn't make a difference? If it was a giant cardboard box, we'd all show up.
Right. It's kind of a double-edged sword because the hotel itself can be an attraction because I do get out of town dealers who will spend the night at the hotel and they can, set up, they're there as early as I am. So there's a benefit in that regard. There's like a bar downstairs and a nice lobby where, an ATM machine, bathroom. So some of the stuff that you might take for granted. There's a faux Starbucks and like sandwiches for sale. So there's some of those amenities that you may not have at an empty space. But the big hurdle with an empty space would be renting tables, which can be a pain. Especially if they require you to set them up. But then also you're not, if you get something like that, you're probably not up against much competition where the upstairs ballroom that we utilize is also a wedding venue. And weddings bring in the hotel a lot more money than my card show. So I'm going to be the low man on the totem pole when it comes to scheduling those events, which I wouldn't run up against in, say just a warehouse space. So it's kind of like there's positives and negatives to it. And I just hope it's been a great venue. Just for location is perfect here locally in Madison. It's a nice hotel. And it's, I've been here for almost 2 years now. And so people know it. So I hope I don't get pushed out by those weddings, but I won't hold my breath.
Here's a question for you. Does the hotel give you a Wi-Fi code for the people?
Yeah. I think it's open Wi. I think it's free Wi-Fi. I don't think there's a password or anything.
Okay. I didn't know, because I know like some of the hotels, they have it. We're being Diamond Princess. She has a great channel. She's a stellar member of the card community. She's taking a break from her live to send her people here to jump in and hit the like button and say hello. Thank you
that's
all
awesome.
very, very much.
Awesome.
Much appreciated. Give me all your Nick Chubb cards.
It's card community right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So so I mean, well, that's good. So at the show, do you set up also, or are you really trying to just make sure a combination of the two?
A combination of the two. So November, December, I was a little slow on dealers. November, I was up against, there's a big show in Chicago, the Sports Spectacular, that I had no other choice but to run up against it, which I'll have that happen again in March. So about a dozen of my regular dealers go to Chicago. So I had some openings. So it's like, well, I might as well set up my 25-cent boxes. And so I set up in November, December. Typically I don't set up just because there's demand for filling the tables. And when there is demand in full tables, it's kind of hard for me. The January show that I had 2 weeks ago, it was packed. If I would have set up, I would have been stuck at my table the entire time, or having my buddy next to me, have to run my table the whole day, because it was just packed with people, which is great, which is a great, problem to have. So typically I don't set up at my own show. That's why I try to get to the Rockford show that I set up at last Saturday. There's a show in Janesville, Wisconsin, which is just half an hour from me, and I'll set up there as well. So try to set up at those shows.
So I've never set up at a show. So what are you looking to bring when you go to a show?
When I set up,
When you're going to be a vendor. When you're going to be a vendor.
Yeah, when I'm a dealer, I just set up 25-cent boxes that because it's super easy for me to separate that from what's in my eBay store. And so, anything that's I always have people, do you have any like $20 cards, $50? I'm like, yeah, it's on my eBay store because I don't want to bring those and then have to go home and take them off my eBay store and do all that. It's like, just go to my eBay store. So I just take 25-cent boxes, plus 25-cent boxes allows me to leave my table and not worry about theft. I mean, if somebody wants to take a pile of 25-cent cards, go ahead. Right. I mean, if really
more power to you.
More power to you. So I can walk the show floor, get some deals, and I kind of utilize it in three ways. When I set up as a dealer, I kind of have three missions. One is to, make a few bucks. B is just build relationships with other dealers for two reasons. A, recruit them to my show, and then B, open that networking up to, if they have a bulk lot that they want to sell, they know I'm the guy. But also when, the guys with showcases that don't want bulk, when people come to their table and they're like, hey, I've got these binders of junk, do you want to buy them? No, but that guy with all those junk boxes will. And so they'll send them to my table and I might buy them. So it's kind of a lot of networking that I set up. It's I would say selling cards for money is like the least important part of being a dealer at the show for me.
Now, out of the 25-cent box, like what do you typically, like, what can you typically expect to make going to like a standard card show?
It typically I would say my average is around $200. But last Saturday I made 600 selling 25-cent cards. So, wow. It kind of varies, but that's kind of an outlier. I think I've only made that much, maybe 2 shows out of 25 with my quarter boxes. So I would say an average 200 to 300 is probably right. 2 is on kind of the lower side, and 3 is kind of, right up near the high side. And then there's going to be some outlier. There may be a day that, the weather's crappy, or the weather's actually here. The weather's really nice and people don't want to be in a hotel or, in a gymnasium looking at baseball cards all day. So that day I might make $100, but there's a day that I make 600.
That's awesome. Especially if just like quarter cards. Now the quarter cards, are they basically just your run of the mill common, like, rookie, like no name type players, or like, that type of stuff? Or is it like, could it be like, like a short print or a parallel, or maybe even like random numbered card in there or something like that? Or
yeah, a lot of like, I'll put a lot of like serial number, like common serial number cards. A lot of like Bowman prospects, really kind of whatever I'm sourcing. And it's like, a lot of stuff that I'll put in for $1.50, but I'll throw Wander Franco's in there. I'll throw, a random $5 or $10 card. Sometimes a card, from the time I put it in the quarter box to when it, might be picked out, it might have gone from a quarter card or $1 card to $10. During the playoffs, I think it was Kike Hernandez a couple years ago. His rated rookie ended up being like a $12 card on eBay, and some kid pulls it out and he's like, whoa, this is a really good card. And I'm like, well, it's yours for a quarter. And it's, selling for 12 on eBay. I had one kid, and I love this story because it's like it's word of mouth is like the best promotion. And I was set up at a different show, and he had gone through and like bought a whole bunch of cards at a previous show from me. And so he comes up to me and he goes, do you look through these cards before you put them out? And I'm like, oh yeah, I cherry pick, the good cards, and there's good cards in here, but I'm not going to put like a $20 card in there. He's like, well, I was at the Madison show last week, and I pulled
Uh-oh.
a Klay Thompson rookie card out of here that sells for $40 or $50 on eBay. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, I'm surprised they put a Klay Thompson rookie in there. And he goes, well, it didn't have, I guess when Klay Thompson was a rookie, I think it was a lockout year or something. So there were like 2 rookie classes. And so there wasn't a rookie logo on Klay Thompson cards. So I'm not a basketball guy. I didn't know that. So it went in the quarter box. And I'm like, well, good for you. And so even better, there were like 3 guys, sitting, digging through my quarter boxes as somebody's telling them last week they pulled a $50 card out of one of my quarter boxes. So it's like, hey, that'll keep them here longer.
Sure.
Trying to dig for more diamonds in the rough. So it's like, he's like, I didn't know if you'd want to know that or not. I'm like, no, that's great. You got a good deal. And I've got a great story that, customers overheard and might keep them here longer.
Hey, we went, like Anthony said, we went to the Culture Collision show here, and I'm like you, Anthony's like you. The 10-cent, quarter, dollar box. I mean, that's where we spent most of our time and everything. And there was a guy who had 50-cent boxes. I went through and I was picking out, I picked out Patrick Mahomes. Like no Huddle fireworks, no Huddle prism. That's like a separate little set and everything.
Yeah.
Paid 50 cents for it. I just sold it for like $15.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's what I, do the exact same thing. You can find those ones that nobody thinks about. Well, this is just a random insert. Well, it is a random insert, but then all of a sudden the guy getting ready to go to the Super Bowl and everything like that, and all of a sudden, boom, the price jumps up.
Absolutely.
So I mean the dollar box, I mean, that's one of the things like with the national, and I've heard, Ryan Card Collector too, and a lot of those guys talk and say, hey, if you come to the national, if you get a chance, come and hit my dollar boxes, because they're starting to put their dollar boxes together now for July. And to your point, if somebody all of a sudden pops off, they're not sitting there wasting time going through trying to find those 3 or 4 or 5 cards of his that they have.
Oh yeah, for especially in baseball. I mean, there could be a guy that in spring training all of a sudden just blows up as a prospect, and by July, who knows what could happen.
Do you find dealers that are willing to do bulk deals with resellers?
Oh yeah. And I think dealers at show. I mean, every dealer is a reseller. So it almost seems like there's more deals between resellers than there are, dealer to customer transactions. So, there are some where they might be a little tight, and you kind of, once you get to know dealers, and especially if you go to the same shows and you build those relationships, you kind of know who you can get good deals from, and you work with those guys, and you kind of know, okay, I'm probably not going to get as good of a deal from this guy, but I know these other 3 guys, I'm going to get some good deals. So it's kind of a feeling out process. It takes a little bit of time with any type of, sales, position, just trying to build that rapport. So
Mike can tell you, that's my son.
Nice.
And he has a question of his, so before you answer this question, how many listings do you have on eBay?
I'm around 33,000 right now.
So do you go back through and edit prices if a player gets hot?
Not really, no. But I will tell you, sometimes buyers get a little greedy, and that will help me recognize a mispricing in my eBay store. It happened last week. It was a Bowman Chrome prospect or refractor, and I listed it for $5 or best offer. And all of a sudden, like within minutes, I had like 4 offers. And I'm like, whoa, this must be underpriced. Nobody bought it, but I had 4 offers within like 10 minutes. And so I looked at it, and it's a $10, $12 card. I'm like, okay. So I declined every offer, and I repriced it to $10 or best offer. and it ended up selling for $8. And so somebody could have bought it outright for $5, but they got greedy and wanted to get it for $4 or $3, and it ended up selling for $8, which was still under comps.
It is funny that you say that. I had the exact same thing happen about 2 weeks ago. I had a Joe Burrow Rising Star card. So when I looked it up on eBay and everything, I just said, and it was later at night, so I wasn't really paying attention to stuff. And I went ahead and did the exact same thing. I think I priced it about like, I don't know, like $8.50, $9 and everything. I had the same thing. I got a $5.50 offer, a $6.50 offer, and a $7.50 offer. And I said, why is this guy giving 3 offers like this? I go, that's very strange. And I went and looked, and I completely missed. It's the red parallel that goes for about 50.
Oh,
I'm like, you tried to, I'm like, you screwed yourself. You knew what it was. Why wouldn't you just pay the $8.50?
Yep.
Why are you trying? I'm like, gosh.
Yep. Cost him a lot of,
So
trying to save $3.
Decline and that listing. Let me see what I'm going to do now.
Yep, exactly. So in some instances I do, but for the most part, I have no idea. So what I've kind of learned is it'll sell event. Like, even if I overprice something, it'll sell. Typically the only time I reprice a lot of stuff, but it goes back the other way. It goes down. Because a lot of stuff that I rip a lot of Bowman, and at release, like Khalil Watson, I think my first Bowman Chrome Khalil Watson sold for $22, just a base.
Yeah.
And now they're selling for like $2. So, and I'm pretty sure I have a few first Bowman Chromes from last year that are overpriced because they're still priced at where they were selling for, and they were at comps at one time, but I just kind of missed the boat on a few and got them up too late. So I'll go back, and if I notice, I'll go back and I'll, so it's more common for me to change a price going downward as opposed to a player gets hot and I raise the price, because there's a lot of smart people that are really fast and they'll beat me to it, and they'll just buy it before I even realize that it's a hot card. So especially, with the amount of listings I have, it's hard to keep tabs on it.
So, question from the Flipping Sports guy: what's an average number of sales per day?
My 90-day average. So over the last 90 days, it's about 115 per day.
So now, out of that 115, I know you offer a discount, 25% on 7 or more cards.
Yep.
Is that a good driver for you? Like, out of that 115, it's obviously not 100. It may be is that 115 cards, or is that 115 orders?
That's 115 cards.
So, and then out of that, so do you find with that deal that you have going on that you get more bulk purchases?
I do, but it's not as many as I would expect. I would say it's probably 20%. I mean, I get so many single card sales, and it's like single card sales on an 89 Donruss Tony Gwynn for $1.50, and they're paying tax on that. So they're paying like $1.60 or $1.65 for an 89 Donruss Tony Gwynn.
You talked about this, I think, on today's show about the whole eBay thing versus Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and every other little thing from that standpoint. So, I mean, you did talk about it today on your show, but go ahead and then kind of say what you said today about the, using eBay versus, outside of eBay.
Yeah. So I have my opinion is like an unpopular opinion. I think eBay fees are great. I think it's a steal. And they're actually going to be going up soon. I think this month they're raising them a little less than 0.5%. So right now the final value fee for eBay store owners is 12%. That's going up, I think, February 14th. It's going up to 12.35%, which I think is a steal. With the amount of eyeballs, eBay is a platform that's been around for 30 years. It's not an overnight sensation. It's not a Whatnot or, some of these, Johnny come lately platforms. Hey, Whatnot may be a platform that sticks around and has, staying power, but I want a solid. I know eBay is the staying power, but I think a lot of people don't take into consideration the benefits that eBay has just from the sales platform, the CRM that it offers with the resource management. I mean, it's so easy. I can go to my reports and print a sheet and give to my accountant. Here's my monthly. Here's January, February, March. Everything is just basically a click away. So I think, and the amount of eyeballs that you can get, I've come to know many of my customers, but to get those, that even though I know many of them, it's still a very small percent of my customer base, maybe 10% or less. So where are those 90% coming from? If I did it on Twitter, Facebook, my website, first off, I'm probably going to have to utilize multiple platforms. I am not really good with responding to messages and emails and all that. So if I have 5 different selling platforms, and I know it works for others, and other people can do it, my mind doesn't work like that. So I want a one-stop shop where eBay does basically everything for me. I'll gladly pay 12% and then the end of the month 12.35.
Yeah, I mean, when you figure the number of eyeballs, I mean, if you have your own Shopify store, it sounds great, but how are you going to drive the people there?
Exactly.
I mean, most, from that standpoint, I think that's a very important thing. Yeah, I say the same thing. I mean, Anthony, like we were resellers in all other areas before we got into sports cards, clothes, plush, CDs, DVDs, action figures, the whole thing and everything, so. And it's funny you hear a lot of people going, oh, you do your own store, you're giving eBay so much money, and it's like, okay, so do you understand SEO?
Yeah.
Do you understand how to get that many eyeballs on your anything, whatever your thing is? And it's like, it's just easy. It takes me a few minutes to list something, and boom, it has the opportunity to be seen by millions of people.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get that? I mean, it's not, and the whatnot thing. I don't know. I to me as to see what happens, I think, when you look at the people that are driving that and you're looking at the big influencers, you can't go by what they're making or what they're selling on eBay. I mean, on whatnot, because there's a lot of items that go for way more than they should just because I can say, ooh, I bought something from this person.
Yeah. Yep.
So. Oh, did you ever get your answer about discounts not working?
Yes and no. Yeah, so basically what was happening is essentially it is my seller my settings, my shipping settings, since they differ, the transaction fees, since my shipping settings are different, eBay splits those orders up into multiple transactions. So I'm paying, say I have 3-day handling on this item and 4-day handling on this item. eBay will split that up into 2 different transactions and charge me 30 cents each, which I think is a bunch of BS. It took them over a year to actually tell me. It took me multiple messages through LinkedIn to eBay employees. But I was able to get to some of the top people within the payments sector and got a Zoom call with them about 2 weeks ago. I told them through crowdsourcing, I had multiple people tell me it's likely my shipping settings are different for these items, and that's why it's being split up. The guy who was in on the initial managed payments team and still works in managed payments said, no, that's not right. It's not supposed to do that. That's not what's happening. He looked into it further and then sent me an email and said, as eBay expected, your shipping settings are different. So I sent 2 follow-up emails to no response. Surprise. So at least I know it's really disconcerting that it took over a year with no answers from eBay, and then and then trying to cover his rear end when he gets the answer that he said wasn't what was causing the issue in the first place. So I'm gonna keep running my mouth about it, and they gave me, one of the category managers gave me $100 credit. Now it's cost me a couple thousand over the last year. So 100, it's like, well, is this hush money? Is this, what is this? It's a drop in the bucket from what you've taken, but I guess it's a small gesture. So I'm in the process of getting my flipping sports guy actually helped me out. So I've been fixing. I have, by the way, flipping sports guys is in here. I have 150 different shipping, return, and like handling settings within my eBay. So
crap.
It's been, yeah. I didn't like, how is this even possible?
Wow.
So yeah, it's a chore just to get all this changed over. So, but I'm in the process, and hopefully it alleviates the problems I've been having.
Well, that is awesome. Let's go ahead. I mean, I've taken up way more time of yours than I thought I was going to take up, or I should say we have. So, I mean, I cannot thank you enough for going ahead and going on.
It's been awesome. Really
I mean, it gives me, I mean, just, the knowledge, and there's some at least more of a basis to really sit down and think more about, what it's going to take to go. I mean, like I still have a regular, full-time job and everything, but I'm thinking, as slowly but surely, and I know I won't be working full-time many more years. So I've already like, hey, as I start to get out of some stuff, and I mean, to be able to list quicker, even with a full-time job, would be so much of a big saver. And the thing I like about the cards is that, I mean, the truth is yes, you have, millions of cards there, but the truth is, as if, they don't take up as much room as if you had a million, Funko Pops.
Yes, I'm gonna tell my wife that. I've never thought of that.
Very true.
I've never thought of that. I won't use. She won't probably know what a Funko Pop, but I'll say like shoes or bags.
Yeah, and it's true, because when you think about, if you get 4-row box, you're getting what, 3,000-ish cards in there.
Yeah.
So 4 of those will fit on a nice little shelf and a nice little, and you got you got 12,000 cards, sitting there, ready to go and everything. So I mean, I think it's I think you've given me a lot of hope of going forward, and and trying to do different things and stuff, and oh no, it worked. It worked. So might as well try it out. I might as well try it out. You got that, Mike? Maybe mom will fall for it. Why is there a pallet of baseball cards in the driveway? I'll make them go away somehow, darling.
Right.
You just need to get a Fujitsu. They'll go away real fast.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I hate to back when we try, but I did see somebody else was using an Epson one with Card Dealer Pro, and that's why I was kind of curious about, are they doing something, behind the scenes to make it work? Just because when I went on the website, you see the 3 Fujitsu ones. Obviously, they're going, these are the 3 best ones that we believe are. They're probably pushing those more because they are the ones that will give you the best results, the quickest results, where some of the other ones are a little slower, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and Fujitsu and Card Dealer Pro, they have a working relationship. So, and I think they were set up together at the National, maybe. I think Collects and Fujitsu were together at the same booth. So they have a working relationship, but Fujitsu does, in terms of like, and I guess I should say feed scanners, Fujitsu is definitely tops for baseball cards. And I would say, and I mean, this is just my knowledge, but from what I've been told, some of them, even within Fujitsu, there are feed scanners that are not good for scanning baseball cards. So, I can't speak for like other manufacturers, Epson or any of the others. But I will say if it's a Fujitsu and it's a feed scanner, stick to just those three, because some of the others, I think it's like the way they feed in, it's kind of like curving or whatever, where the 70-30, 71-60, 81-70, those are, flat.
That's a straight run.
Straight run. Yeah. Straight run.
So it's almost like, it's like you're putting it through it's almost like acting like a flatbed scanner without having to flip it over into another separate scan. It does it in one shot and everything.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Anthony, any last questions or anything?
No, man, I'm just like really trying to take it all in, because where you're at is exactly like kind of the roadmap I have for my eBay store at the moment. So like literally just taking notes, trying to take it all down, bookmarking different pages that you're talking about, that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
Again, really appreciate all of the good information. The chat was super active tonight, so they were very much appreciative. I could tell of all of the really good information you were sharing with us tonight. So again, just thank you so much. And I don't really have anything specific. Although next week, guys, make sure you come check out my channel, because we will be live over on my channel 10 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday.
Beau knows a lot. Beau, what do you want to promote? What do you want to tell everybody to go and check you out?
Yeah, I think you dropped the link to my eBay store, 1millioncubs.com. You can find all of my different platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, eBay store, all that, 1millioncubs.com. I don't blog anymore. I just kind of randomly talk on YouTube. My YouTube channel, 1 Million Cubs on YouTube. I go live at 7 a.m. every morning, Hobby Evolution, upload random videos from time to time. So that's
about it. You're more of a Twitter guy when it comes to social media than it is IG, right?
Yeah. I my IG, I try to post like I think today I posted a picture of, I just bought a telephoto lens for my iPhone, and it just came in the mail yesterday. So I was testing it out. So this morning, my IG photo was my neighbor's birdhouse with some birds flying in the birdhouse, because I needed to get some photos to test out. So that was my Instagram post for the day.
Well, excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for in the chat and everything. It was great interaction. Thank you for all the great questions. And again, Beau, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to hang out with us and share, and give ideas, to people who want to be able to do what you do and whatever scale. I think one of the things I think I've seen from you, I've heard from you and from watching you also is that the scale is really set by you, right? And with the way you do it and everything, the way you have it set up, and the way you look at handling this, you can scale it as you need to fit your needs and everything, and it works no matter whether you're 30,000 listings or if you're going to be 10,000 listings or 5,000 listings. It works and stuff. So thank you very much, chat. Thank you guys very much for hanging out, and don't forget, next week we'll be on Anthony's channel. And thank you very much, and don't forget, check out Beau's stuff. I'm going to add his website to the description once the video posts. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next week.